Need both more mugs.
No, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was just thinking that so that we can like put the mug up. So Tanya, my favorite topic is money. Like
Is it? We
money,
just want more. We want all the wealth.
I feel like it's wealth and health for me. Like
Yeah.
those two things I can jam about all day.
Yeah.
Um, but today I was thinking about what does it feel to have a wealth advisor, right? Like how do you think people feel when they get their first wealth advisor, if they ever do, right? Because 70% of Americans don't have one.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because I had a practice for a very, very long time. And the folks that were new to it had this expectation that everything was going to be solved, right? Like, this person is like a magician. They're going to solve all my problems. And they're just going to do all these things for me. And my wealth is just going to grow and I'm going to have all this freedom. And it doesn't usually turn out that way. For the new person, right? The new person very quickly realizes that it's a relationship, right? The advisor is there to advise, guide, but in a lot of cases, especially when we're thinking about growing holistic wealth, not just I put money in an investment and it's just going to sit there and grow. I'll change it sometimes, but there are actions that we have to take throughout our lives that facilitate the building of wealth. And that's the hardest part, right? Especially if you're new to it, you didn't grow up in an environment or in a family that discussed sort of the things, the wealth building activities. So it can feel a little bit overwhelming in the beginning,
Yeah,
but a good relationship with an advisor is a partnership. It's
yeah,
the person that you can come to when you have a question, when things change, right? Think about all the decisions you've ever had to make in your life since I'm not even say graduating from college. Since graduating high school, going off to college was a money thing, and most kids and parents are not equipped to really make a good decision, even right then and there. But you've had to make thousands of money decisions, and uber wealthy people literally have an advisor for every money decision that they have to make. I mean, from young.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you mentioned like uber wealthy people, right? Because the first time I met with a wealth advisor,
Uh-huh.
felt like, oh boy, I think I kind of struggling here. I need help. I felt like I got upgraded to first class. It was like,
Why did you feel that way?
well, it's kind of like, if you never ride first class or you never get like that call, like, hey, you've been upgraded, right?
Yeah.
Kind of walk through the cabin. It looks really swanky, but you kind of don't know what's going to happen. And then they take off and they kind of pull the curtain shut. So you really don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So the first time I met with a wealth advisor, it felt like an upgrade to first class. It was like, hey, someone's asking me about my money.
Hmm.
Someone,
If they're doing it the right way, they're asking about you.
yes, that too. Like they were
Yeah.
asking about me, which at first I thought was a little intrusive because it's not you. And they were asking about my spouse, you know, kids and my goals. And at first it was a little like, I've never had anyone take such a direct interest in
Hmm.
what I'm doing with my money and what I aspire to, and if I want to leave money for people when the time
Yeah.
comes, or like they were talking about things like, hey, you can even give money while you're still here. I was like,
Well, it doesn't even, I mean, you mentioned like health and wealth, right? It's almost, in some ways, it's like, holy crap, this person asking me questions about
yeah,
decisions or ideas of what my assets or
yeah,
things that I plan to do like 50 years from now. Almost like mortality becomes a factor as well.
yeah.
So that is super overwhelming too, right? No one's really asking you about the mortality factor of your money.
But I was just like in love with it right away. It was like, yes, now like the weight of it is not on me.
Hmm.
And this person knows a whole lot about money. And I definitely went for my investments first. It was like, okay, am I investing the right way? Am I doing the 401k? Am I doing a Roth? Like it was definitely about like how do I make sure like all this hard work pays off, right? But then what I really loved about it was like, oh, I can call you whenever. I can reach out to you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to Google it.
Yeah.
Now, what I didn't like is when they were like, hey, do you have $500,000 to sell?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah, I think because people don't understand. Most people don't understand the money aspect of not just the money that you're investing that you're trying to grow, just the compensation factor of advisors. I saw a post today this morning. This advisor, he has an independent firm, and he was talking to a prospect who, young guy in their early 30s, had about $5.5 million. So this is like, good amount of money.
yeah,
And he had invested his funds with completely with wealth, and just like every traditional full service advisory firm, the fee is somewhere between 1.5%. So this person was paying essentially 1.5% of the total liquid funds that were invested year over year. And he sort of gave him a comparison of what it looks like um, when you do something as simple as index investing. Not saying that that was the thing that this person should have done, but fees matter, right? But did this person have other aspects of their financial life that they needed help with that required this sort of participation, right? And in turn, compensation of a firm, a
yeah.
person, advisor?
Well, here's what I would say though, Tanya. Before we could even get to the fees,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the conversation even got to the fees because it was like,
So yeah, they had a
we never got to fees. I don't remember getting to fees because it was like, hey, our clients, to be a client, you have to have $500,000. And I was just like, oh, a net worth? And they were like, no, like cash that you got to bring over.
yeah.
I felt like my palms started to get sweaty and I was like, why am I here?
Just think about what that means. You had to, which most Americans, right? You had to figure out your ticket to advice. You
Yes,
had to figure out how to amass $500,000 in cash
yes,
by yourself.
yes. And
No advice,
exactly,
no
right?
help.
But my 401k didn't count, my house
Nope.
didn't count. It was like, no, like, and then it was the first time I heard the term new money. Like, it has to be like new money for that.
Yeah.
And I just remember like walking away feeling quite demoralized. Like, I'd seen like, the shinier side of things, but I couldn't get a foot in the door.
Or imagine if you said, you know what, I have that. Most of it is in my 401k, which is likely the case.
For
And
most
the
people.
rest that I have, it's earmarked or tied up in whatever. But what I need help with is cash flow, right? How do I maximize my cash flow? If you said to them, I want to figure out how to put an estate plan in place where my kids will be taken care of. So all these things that are not, this is just two,
Yeah,
but the things that are not attached to the actual liquid asset,
yeah.
that person is not even going to engage with you unless you have that piece.
They did not. But what was interesting, and I won't reveal the name of this big blue chip firm that I went to, but
I
when
think
I
I know which
had
one.
a question about estate planning,
Yeah.
they actually referred me to someone else. They were like, hey, we don't do that.
Yeah.
And when I started asking about some other things like 529s for college planning, they had some loose referrals, but it wasn't clear. And I got to tell you that it was that experience. And then trying a few other places, that's how we started. That was the spark for WealthMore. It was
Yeah.
just like, there's got to be a better way. And what about the rest of us?
Yeah. And it's the majority of
Yeah.
people. And you can't, the ones that have the big dollars and the ones that we see in front of our faces all the time are not the firms that do that
Yeah.
for anyone unless even so, I'm going to guess which firm that is. I won't say it, but that firm in particular wanted, in order for you to qualify, you needed to have those assets, and that was, you needed to invest with them.
Yes.
Right? Now, the other things like estate planning or even insurance, maybe, those firms don't even offer those services to you unless you grow up to be private bank or a different market of the bank. So they will for sure invest your money, but it's pretty much limited outside of that.
And interestingly enough, that private bank status was like 2 million.
Yeah, and your baby private bank at 2 million, just so you know. Like you're
Since I was important at that point either.
yeah, you're not. Yeah, your $2 million just gets you a general admission seat.
I'm not quite sure my call gets answered right away.
Probably not.
Why'd you become a right? Like, what made you say, hey, I want to get involved in money. I want to get involved in helping people. Like, what was that spark for you?
So it's a two-step. It's two steps to my career. The beginning step was complete naivety, right? I didn't know anything about investments or managing money. I fell into financial services, and it just happened to be on the institutional side. So completely green.
Yeah.
My first job was an assistant on a trading desk, so I had to learn how to
Now you
manage money.
that for regular folks, institute.
Yeah, so institutional money management is managing money for companies, right? For the pension plan of a company, the pension plan of a government entity. It could be managing money for a foundation, a not for profit, two specific lanes. But essentially, it's not managing money towards an individual's goals, it's managing money towards an institution's goals, which are really, really long and really, really broad. And it's also very, very technical. The objectives of managing that kind of money are really tied to some sort of metric, some sort of metrics that they're trying to attain, and very much fees, right? Because they are very much aware how fees will impact their long term goals. So they're very particular about them. So I did that for a very long time, and I learned a lot. I mean, but it's very stressful, but also felt impersonal, right? I'm managing funds towards a goal that I never get to realize or see for the other people.
And people, like, how big of a fund are we talking?
Billions, right? Billions. So imagine, being new. I don't know anything about finance, and this is how I start my career, right? No concept of money in those amounts in general, right? So, and it's stressful, but personally, the stress was not worth the return, which was obviously my compensation, but also felt like, okay, I'm sure I could now do this for people and actually see the result, right? Actually talk to a person and help them build wealth. And that was the transition. So that was sort of the second step. I knew I wanted to work with people. I didn't want to work with institutions anymore. And that was a big leap. I had to reframe money, right? Learn how to have conversations, personal conversations with people, and very quickly understood that once I started working with individuals and families to build wealth, um, I also became a certified financial planner, which meant that I was taking an approach that wasn't completely focused on investments. It was also focused on other areas of building wealth. And I quickly learned that about 75% of my job was people.
Wow.
People, relationship management. The technical parts of it are super important, but where you really spend your time is managing relationships, helping people articulate and understand their goals, sort of test scenarios out for them, helping them try to figure out what's most important to them, right? Building wealth for me is not the same as building wealth for you. And most people come to you with this idea of wealth that's usually based on other people's ideas, right? So I wanted to work with people essentially and help them build wealth.
Can we talk about just how important it is for people to just get started?
I mean, getting started is so tough, right?
I know. But it's like the thing.
It's the thing, and it's also acknowledgement, right? Because the catalyst to building wealth or speaking with a planner or a financial advisor isn't you don't wake up thinking I want to do this. It's usually something is off. You feel like and you're working and you're like spending all this time making money and you're not satisfied with this day-to-day outcome, or you may be comparing yourself to someone or some other situations, like, oh, this person is pretty similar to me and they seem to have a better job, a go at this, and you want to solve a problem.
It,
But the problem is just a catalyst, right?
yeah.
So to get started, even if it's just a problem or you just want to say, I want to do better, it's an exercise in realization as to where am I at right now,
Yeah.
right?
Like where to get started, right? Like,
Yeah.
because I
Get
would say,
started at WealthMore.
well, obviously, I kind of felt like it was a combination of getting started and then how do I just like keep going, right? Like
Yeah, the keep going
go
is
to the gym once, right? Like
no,
you got
no.
the salad or like, today
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm gonna eat
Or if
healthy.
it's not salad, the vegetable, right? So
Right?
so a lot of the planner's job is trying to figure out how do I get this person to stay engaged and keep doing the things that they need to do to accomplish these goals, whatever they are, because they're different for everyone else. But it's similar to the engagement someone has with a personal trainer when they say, I need help to either, lose weight, get stronger, get healthier. It's very similar to that, in that you can hire this professional, work with this person who is completely invested in you doing well, 100%. But they can't
Force
put
you.
the salad in your mouth.
Right?
They
Like
can't lift the
they
kettlebell for you.
and they don't.
They don't. They really don't. They actually do a better job.
They're like 10 more reps, please. Like, thanks for watching me do it. But yes,
Exactly.
that's kind of what needs to happen.
Yeah. So it's similar in that, right? But also, and if you've ever worked with a personal trainer, they'll try to switch it up because they also understand and can see your engagement. They can see your effort.
Yeah.
So they don't want you to stop. So they will sort of change it up, come up with different things for you to do. And it's very similar in that way that a good planner will try their best to not only help you get on this track so that you can build wealth, but also keep you engaged. I remember when I first started my career, I would get really, really frustrated when a client wouldn't listen, right? Which sort of do their own thing. And if it didn't work out, sort of come back
Yeah.
and then in back of my head, I was like, see, if you'd have done what I told you to do. But anyway, but then I learned that extra component of getting, taking it personally
Yeah.
when someone didn't do what you guys had planned to do is understanding that it's my job to guide them through every situation, even when they don't listen or they make a decision and didn't take into account these other areas until it was a little too late. It's my job to help them navigate whatever situation. And just like your personal trainer, right? You step up on that scale and all of a sudden the number went up.
But that's also part of the journey, right? So
Mhm.
if I think I never early in my career could even remotely afford a wealth advisor. I feel like I got lucky. I took this unpaid internship while I was in college, working for yet another big blue chip firm. And I was on the retirement desk. They were the team selling 401k plans. And I was just like, how did I land on this desk? Like,
It's
why
exciting, wasn't it?
was
It was exciting, wasn't it?
wanted to be on the investment bank or the trading desk. And they put me on this middle market retirement desk, right?
Yeah.
And I think they felt bad for me, right? Like I got the unsexy assignment for the summer. And they just kind of took it upon themselves to make it their personal mission to teach me about investing and about starting early and sticking with it. And as soon as you get your first job, open that 401k, get the company match, like all these
Mhm.
good, like foundational things. But it didn't stop me years down the line from being like, ooh, let me buy some penny stocks, right? Now, they would have never advised me to buy penny stocks. But just like you had clients that you're like, I told you should do this. And they went and did the actual opposite. I feel like it was part of the journey. Like, I didn't put all my money in penny stocks, but I learned from it.
But and that wasn't necessarily a terrible thing. You knew enough not to put all your money in it, right?
Yes.
And those are the things that the time on that retirement desk clearly set a good foundation for you, right? You knew enough
Yes.
not to really, risk it all.
Yes. I didn't liquidate my 401k. Do that. But I think we all have those things where we're like, wow, like I wish I'd done this differently.
Yeah, I even have that. This is my career. I've been doing this for, I don't know, 24, 25 years. You would think that I have, I know the education is not enough, right? I have my own money personality,
Yes.
right? I have to do things that work for me or create friction so that way I don't do the things that I shouldn't do
Yeah.
because we're human, right? We have a whole sorts of things pulling at us. We have kids, we have needs, we have wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not immune to a want,
Yes.
right? But all those things, planners need planners
Yeah.
too, right?
Doctors need doctors. Same thing. I do think that human connection and that making it easier for people to sort of turn it into a habit, right? Making wealth building a lifestyle, right? I love that we do so much at WealthMore that sort of resembles health because that drip approach, that, hey, spend 15 minutes today doing a little more about your wealth, or hey, check in on your wealth plan, or read a few posts from the wealth advisors, I think helps just to kind of make that part of your routine, normalize it. Like, this is just what I do. I'm a wealth builder.
Make it part of your routine, and also just like kids, when we are exposed to information, we're more informed, we're able to make better decisions, right? The content at WealthMore is certainly accessible, it's easy to read, and when you know better, you do better, right? It will inform the decisions you make going forward, right? And it is helpful to get that kind of information, especially if it's new to you. So, to give you an example, I love learning all kinds of things, and I listened to this podcast about regenerative farming. No one cares in my no one cares about this regenerative farming, and this thing that I know a lot about now. And I was talking to a friend of mine who went on a date with someone who happens to make documentaries. And he's telling me, he's like, on farming, it's not sustainable farming. It's like regenerative farming. That was my opportunity.
Or a wealth of random information.
That's what it feels like, right? When you learn something new and you get to apply it,
Yes.
right? So if you've never had access to the information, but you get to now consume it in a way that's accessible and easy and actionable, right? When you get the opportunity to finally use it, not something useless like regenerative farming, in my life, it's not very useful, but that's what it's like when you have access to information and you learn, especially new information, and you get to apply it to yourself. You could apply it to yourself that same day.
And having that human advice, right?
Hmm.
I feel like I missed out on easily 10 years of investing in a Roth. I read the piece of paper how many times. I thought I didn't qualify, so I didn't do it. And it wasn't until I met with a wealth advisor that they were like, I think it was one of our advisors. They're like, what do you mean you don't qualify? Everybody can qualify.
Yeah, and now I think about like the simplest way to qualify, like that time is fleeting. That's a point in your life that you're not going back to,
Can't get it back.
right? You can't get that back, right?
Yes.
So the traditional way of getting into a Roth, you have to be under a certain income level. And think about how many years you were under the income level, right? But also, like it, building wealth is also part of our society and culture. For years, Roth cases didn't even exist,
Yeah.
right? So now they do, and it's much easier for someone to participate in a Roth. But when I was younger and starting out in my career, the only option was a Roth IRA. But just think about how inaccessible that Roth IRA was at that point in time.
And so many, and this is why building wealth more was so important. At the point in which people can even meet the minimums for a wealth advisor, if they ever do, they're near retirement. They spent 20, 30, 40 years of working.
That's the reality for most Americans. They don't really start investing till they're closer to retirement.
And a lot of it, or they are, but they're not maximizing or even aware of some of the things they could be doing
Yeah.
simply because they don't have access to a trusted source, a professional source of advice. And now I feel like they're TikToking it.
They're TikToking it, and it also the way the financial influencer culture has like evolved. It's so big and it's everywhere, and it really feels like it's an all or nothing situation. It's never all or nothing when it comes to money. The smallest thing adds up.
Yes.
That's reality. That's for everybody. But when the person in front of you on your feed can sit there and talk about numbers that, first of all, are probably not true, but they talk about building wealth in a way that's so big and so out of the box, you
Yeah,
start to feel like it's not for you,
exactly. Exactly.
and that's not true.
And then if you're like me and you sort of like, follow news stories about influencers and their own sort of world, you realize just how murky it is.
Yeah, how murky it is, and just like anything, if something's too good to be true, it probably is.
It probably is. Get me started on that other topic. I don't want to like turn the books off, but so I won't say my other topic about things that seem too good to be
Yeah, yeah.
true.
We could be here for a long time.
One of these days, I'll spill the tea on that one.
Yes. And when the money's in the bank, sealed off. All right, now I can say whatever I want to say.
Now, some might argue speaking on it might help, but that
Yeah,
might be
to a
more.
certain point.
So here we are in October. We have about 6 weeks, no, let's say 10
Yeah.
weeks left to the year. And there's some good things we probably should be doing now because there's some deadlines that are approaching. What are some of the things you think we should be, some good housekeeping stuff as we get towards the end of the year?
So the most impactful thing is the most boring thing. Look, just take a look at what's the status of any investment accounts that you have, any bank accounts. Take a look at your expenses for the past 3 months. Get an account of your current situation, which is the hardest thing for people to do. Because without doing that, all the other things like ensuring that you are contributing to your retirement accounts, right? So we have that deadline for the most part is tax day next year. But if you are charitably inclined, right? Make sure you make those contributions or donations before year end. Take a look at your income situation, especially if it's changing next year. If you are looking to purchase a property and want to take advantage of any qualified, distributions from a retirement account, December, January distributions are the best because December counts for this year, January counts for next year, and they're only a couple days apart. So things like that. But you can't really know to do these things unless you have you know where you're at right now. So those sort of tips, year-end tips that can apply to a lot of people, you don't know if it really applies to you unless you have a good account of where you're at
And I do
today at the
feel
moment.
like you mentioned a few things that I feel like went completely over my head there.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's why it's so important for people to meet with their planner and talk about their own financial situation. For
Yeah.
me, the thing I always have to stay on top of is the 529 because that's a December 31st deadline, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And then like if you have a company 401k, those are December 31st deadlines, right?
Those are December 1st deadlines. There is, and this is for our clients, this is not a niche thing, but if you work in a job where you get a bonus time is usually February.
Yeah.
Ish. Planning is super important. The one thing about your bonuses is that you can change the deductions for your bonus separately than you can for your paycheck.
For your paycheck.
If you want to try to maximize your 401k, take into account what you did this year. Try to make up if you can by December. The point of this tidbit is not so much the December deadline. It is you having awareness of what you were able to do this year. And if you want to do better and you know you have a bonus coming in February, make sure you make that election so that your bonuses get taxed in a different way. But wouldn't it be awesome if the majority went to you and you can put more of it in the 401k as opposed to it being taxed and going to Uncle Sam? You can sort of plan to say, hey, I want X amount to be going out of my bonus into my 401k, and then plan the contributions that come out of your paycheck throughout the rest of the year. So if you're not maximizing, that's probably the easiest way to maximize and understand that you can change that one election and how it affects you for the rest of the year. But the only way to really get a sense of that is for you to assess what did you do this year, how much time you have left, how much time you have left to make up for it. Probably not too much time, but you can certainly do better next year.
The other thing I think is important is for those who are 50 and over.
Yeah, catch ups.
Yes, catch ups.
Yeah.
Those.
Yeah, so you can add an extra $5,000 to retirement accounts and essentially add more. The thought behind that is that you can contribute more because you're getting closer to retirement. It's that realization that we mentioned before that most people don't really start investing till they're getting closer to retirement. And the thing about investing when you're closer to retirement is that you've lost a lot of the most important factor, which is time. The only way to make up for time is to contribute more. So that's why they allow you to add more once you're over 50 to catch up.
And everyone's got their own little thing, but I do, we can all get swept up in the holiday season and wake up in January a little remorseful.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah.
I do think for me it's a little bit more of sticking to the holiday budget.
Yeah, and the good time to think about the holiday budget is in January, February. Very unrealistic. I think the realistic time is the summer, maybe. Also, just not beating yourself up too much, right? We have kids. The kids are getting older. Their gifts are more expensive. They're less engaged. Right? So that's the other thing. Like, this is costing more, and you just want to go in your room. You don't even want to sit by this tree. So, sort of planning those gifts out, and also maybe in some ways reimagining what that holiday means to you and your family. It can get so expensive, especially if you travel
And
during the holidays. Yeah.
considering, you know, what the whole holiday season really means.
Yeah. I remember, and I don't recommend this to anyone, but I grew up with my mom and my stepmom, and we grew up in Brooklyn, and my stepmom had a house that the crime was just not in a good place at that time. And one Christmas, we all got like very small gifts, me and my sisters, and my mom was like, "We got new windows. Merry Christmas. You're safe."
To the point
I didn't understand it as a kid. Completely
now,
understood now.
to the point of it, I can't remember holiday gifts, but
Yeah,
I can remember,
I remember these windows.
right? I remember like the tree decorated,
Yeah,
family dinner, the pure comedy that happens when we bring our
yeah.
kids together, right? Those are the things that I remember. Like I could not possibly even remember a gift that I got 5 years ago.
No, you don't. And you know what? Even my fiance's kids are grown. They're in their 20s. And last year, I just had this idea of everyone got gifts, but I just had this idea. I was going to spend more time on stockings. And I put chapstick, I put scrunchies, I put like all these things, right? And the kids inevitably have friends that are coming to. So, all right, everyone got stockings. To this day, the kids are like, "Are we getting more chapstick? Am I getting another face mask?"
The to that point, Tanya, I'm glad you mentioned the most coveted thing in our home is the assortment of chocolate that ends up in the stuffing. In the
Yeah,
That is the most coveted thing, and everyone knows has their favorite like candy. That is definitely one of the most coveted things. And then like little like small dollar gift cards, like
yeah. Or the trading that goes on with these chocolates, because I put chocolates in there, but I put a variety, and some people like some more than others. They're like, "Hey, what are you gonna give me for those chocolates?"
never seen such excitement over a $5 Chick-fil-A card.
Well, hello, hello.
So we leave folks with
Listen, the
it is
99-cent store is your friend.
below. It's about the memories.
Yes, yes, it is about the memories.
God does wealth is about the memories too.
It is.
Awesome. Yeah. Great chatting with you. See you next week.
Yep.